So we've got a bunch of Montreal Canadiens news to go over following yesterday's defeat at the hands of the Detroit Red Wings. It wasn't a good game for Montreal. They couldn't convert on their chances, and quite frankly, they were the inferior team. But today we are diving into some roster moves, we are diving into some trade updates, and another idea that was floating around that talks about Martin St. Louis and whether or not he could have actually gotten the can earlier this year. So, as always, the show is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Go out there and check out the first link in the description to save some money and to get some free months on your VPN. You'll also be helping out the channel in the process, so thank you for that. Let's dive into today's Montreal Canadiens roster moves. Starting out with this right here, take a look. It's Jayden Struble, who was sent down to Laval on a conditioning stint. To help us out, we're going over onto this Pro Hockey Rumours article. This will be linked in the description as well. He will remain on the active roster while suiting up in the minors, but he'll need to be reinstated after 2 weeks. Otherwise, Jayden Struble will need to be waived to continue playing in the minors. At 23 years old, Struble was scratched for the 7th straight game in last night's loss to Detroit. He's only played 4 times since December 12th and has been subject to 15 healthy scratches in that span. The 2019 second-rounder has firmly slipped behind Xhekaj on the team's left defense chart for now, and there hasn't been much appetite for head coach Martin St. Louis to make lineup changes amid a 13-4-1 surge since mid-December that has Montreal in the thick of a highly competitive Eastern Conference wildcard race. So, with Jayden Struble, obviously this is not necessarily ideal for him to be sitting out so many games in a row. It's nice to see him get his legs under him once more, and it's kind of merciful for the Montreal Canadiens to be giving Struble this opportunity. Hey, you haven't played in a while, we don't play you much, so go down to Laval, get some reps in, actually keep your body in game shape, and everybody is happy. So, Struble is going to be down in Laval. It's not an official transaction that's going to reflect in the lineup. It's just a conditioning stint. So that is our update on Struble. Meanwhile, let's go over onto some commentary on trades, because there was a post made by Anthony Marcotte on Twitter that I did think was interesting to dive into. This was posted yesterday, and of course, Marcotte does work for the BPM Sports Talk radio show. Let's translate this tweet into English. I'm looking forward to seeing how the Jacob Markstrom situation plays out in New Jersey. Jake Allen will be given the number 1 role in the short term, but I wouldn't be surprised if they try better to support him. The Montreal Canadiens could get a call for Cayden Primeau. Primeau isn't hard to trade because of his salary, and also because he passed right through waivers. A team could acquire him and keep him in the AHL in the short term. That being said, there is no rush for the Canadiens because despite all his detractors, Primeau is a good backup option in the event of an injury. You don't want to be left without a backup option in the final stretch of the season. Primeau's record in Laval since his demotion has been 5-0-0, 1 shutout, I don't know why it says GP, a 1.58 goals against, and a 9.32 save percentage. Those are some really good numbers, and I think Cayden Primeau at this point is proving to us that he is a lot better than an AHL caliber goaltender, despite the fact that he had many struggles with the main Montreal Canadiens team this year. He was very bad. Like, I'm not even going to use another word that's a lot lighter to hear. He was bad with the Montreal Canadiens this season. With the Laval Rocket, though, he's fine. It's just, you have to question whether or not if Cayden Primeau is available on the trade market, if he gets sent back up to some different NHL team. Is Cayden Primeau on New Jersey a lot better than Cayden Primeau on Montreal? Honestly, you could debate yes, because I would argue the Devils' defense core is a lot better than the Montreal Canadiens at this point. Certainly, they're a bit more poised. And I get it, you could say, oh, well, the Laval Rocket D-core is definitely not as good as Montreal's. Yeah, but it's all relative, that's the thing. Laval is one of the better teams in the AHL this season. The Rocket are a stronger AHL team than the Canadiens are an NHL team. So for Cayden Primeau, he is playing behind one of the better squads in front of him, and one of the better defensive cores too. So if he was on New Jersey, for example, with Dougie Hamilton, Brett Pesce, and Luke Hughes manning the blue lines in front of him, I honestly don't think that Cayden Primeau would do too badly. Sure, you could say that a lot of this had to do with the fact that the Canadiens' decor in front of Primeau, when Primeau was in the net, was primarily like the first half of the year's decor. There was no Alexandre Carrier, you had other guys rotating around there, and the Canadiens, quite frankly, weren't really all too good to open up the year. So maybe Cayden Primeau was suiting up for the Canadiens at a bad time, but still, the sample size that he had was big enough where everybody recognized, hey, this guy's just not it. And unfortunately, he cleared waivers, no team wanted him for free, and he just ended up going to Laval. Now he's good in Laval, which is great, but at this point I think there should be some sort of a conversation as to whether or not the Devils of all teams could dip their toes into the Primeau sweepstakes. We spoke about this yesterday, but with Jake Allen now projected to being the starting goaltender, if he gets a certain amount of games played, the Montreal Canadiens will have a pick upgrade from that Jake Allen trade last year. So we'll be on the lookout for New Jersey goaltending options and whether or not Jake Allen gets all the starts that he can. Isaac Poulter was just recalled by the Devils organization earlier this morning, so that seems to be their tandem there, Allen and Poulter. If they do get a trade going for something like a Cayden Primeau or whatever, then okay, we'll talk about that more, but it was just an idea tossed out there by Anthony Marcotte. It does make sense in my opinion, because the Devils do need goaltending support. And finally, to end off this video, I wanted to go over to an article published on donlescoulisses.com. This was translated from French into English. It'll also be linked in the description down below if you wanted to go out there and check this out yourself. Take a look at this commentary by Alexandre Pratt on 98.5 Sports. Martin St. Louis' future could have been in doubt in December, according to Alexandre Pratt. Since the holiday winning streak, St. Louis has been talked about positively. However, before the streak, many fans wanted nothing more to do with him at the helm of the Canadiens. In December, the Habs suffered a 9-2 loss to the Pittsburgh Penguins. It was probably the most humiliating game of the Habs season and a turning point for the team. St. Louis' future could have been in doubt at that point. In fact, Alexandre Pratt of La Presse thinks there would have been serious discussions about the coach's future with the Montreal Canadiens if the team suffered another crushing loss in the following days. This is what he had spoke about during the latest episode of the Sortie des Zones podcast on 98.5 Sports and La Presse. Essentially saying that if the Canadiens lost another big one after the 9-2 game, Marty St. Louis probably would have gotten the can, or at least there would have been some sort of a bigger discussion about him getting the can. And I feel like tolerance for St. Louis has gotten to a really good point here. Of course, it should be, like, he deserves it, considering the streak the Canadiens have gone on, and a lot of Canadiens fans will be quick to point out to say, hey, like, Marty St. Louis is a really big contributor to the success the team has had recently, and I'm not going to dispute that as well. But it also goes to show you just how volatile these jobs can be. Last year, yeah, sure, Marty St. Louis was on the entire time, and the Canadiens weren't great, but the expectations, they weren't really too high either. Marty St. Louis could have coached this team to finishing near the bottom of the standings to draft 5th overall, and it would have been okay, because, hey, nobody expected more. But as long as St. Louis was there to help this team build positive habits and to continuously grow and get better, that's the expectation instead. Now, because the team has sort of built their chops a little bit, they've progressed and they got Line A and they have Hudson now and everything is looking good, now the expectation is to be better. And so, during that 9-2 loss, there was a really big possibility for doubt. Are the Canadiens really progressing? Is St. Louis really the best coach for this team? And unfortunately, the conversations got to that point, and it wasn't for a bad reason. If the Canadiens ended up losing another stinker of a game later on, Marty St. Louis probably could have had himself fired a lot earlier. And then the Canadiens would have to go through another coaching change, and who knows what new systems would have been implemented with whichever coach was going to be hired. And now the record with Alexandre Carrier and Lane Hudson getting all these points, unfortunate that his streak was broken yesterday. Patrick Laine scoring these goals, etc., etc. With all this stuff going on, who knows how differently it could have gone if Marty St. Louis wasn't the guy manning everything. So maybe that's just some doomsday scenario conversation going out there and making itself known. But I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about all these Montreal Canadiens notes, from Jayden Struble getting sent down to Cayden Primeau potentially being a doubles target, as well as Marty St. Louis almost getting the can. Lots to talk about today for the Canadiens. Let me know in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. 99 and bye.